Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's midday weather outlook for the southern region brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. Well, I want to piggyback off of what we covered in yesterday's forecast video and just talk about some of the changes we've seen that are significant for the southern region. And primarily, what we watched on the last couple of days, the last day here of model runs, is that the GFS has slowly kind of moved over toward the European model solution with the rainfall that is coming through in the near term. Remember, we were watching that cutoff low that was sitting in this area, or that little shortwave that was going to be moving across our southern region, and the GFS was wanting to be much wetter in this region, whereas the European has always kind of painted this area as having the greatest probability of seeing the heaviest rainfall. And now we can see that both models are in much better agreement as we look out all the way through Saturday night. So this is a 120-hour forecast of total accumulated precipitation. So we're going to take a look at the timing of that rainfall and also discuss what's going on right here off the coast, as it may potentially be bringing some heavy rainfall just to coastal locations here, right there in parts of South Carolina and North Carolina, right in through this quarter. So certainly we've seen better performance out of the European model, and we've noticed that over the last several weeks that with time the GFS eventually comes toward the European solution. So that's just an important piece of information to remember as we're going through these forecasts each day. So we're going to be adding quite a bit of rainfall to a region that over the last week has seen a lot of heavy rainfall, and specifically I'm talking about parts of Tennessee, northern parts of Mississippi and Alabama, getting over toward this section through here of the Appalachian Mountains, because you saw that heavier rainfall band is extending right into this region. So again, this is just looking back at the last 7 days of total accumulated precipitation. Something to take note of, you notice that getting over here into parts of coastal Carolinas, while we have brought in some very, very heavy rainfall everywhere to the west of there, and we're doing a lot to alleviate the longer term drought stress. And yes, I know that this is very impactful to our harvest efforts, but the longer term water picture is looking much better here. This region right here in the coastal Carolinas, specifically in North Carolina, has been quite dry. You look back over the last 2 weeks in terms of the percent of normal, while some regions right into this corridor are sitting between 300 and 500% of average. Look over there right along coastal North and South Carolina, getting into Virginia, where each one of these systems, as they just keep lifting to the northeast, don't bring a strong enough front through to get any sort of heavy rainfall. Of course, that we did get one good shot at this. This would have been on Halloween night as the storms rolled through. But overall, a drier picture for that quarter, while very wet to the west of it. And you can certainly see the impact of the pattern. Just get west of central Texas, getting all the way to the west coast of the United States, and that stagnant Pacific pattern where we're kind of broken up like this. Everything seems to want to meet here and take on off. And as a result, this big high over low pattern out west has kept things very, very dry for the western side of our southern region, especially over the last couple of weeks. So I want to zoom in and take a closer look at what rainfall looks like in the southeast over the next 5 days, so we can get some numbers here out of the models. We need to be watching out for, as this next system sweeps through, for some potentially heavy rainfall amounts from some thunderstorms, some of which I think might have the ability to be quite strong. I know the Storm Prediction Center is not necessarily discussing it just yet, but there's still some uncertainty on the timing and some of the upper level ingredients for them. So I just want to point out something here, that we're going to be watching these storms as they kind of roll through parts of Mississippi, but really getting into Alabama, Georgia, and South Carolina. And also, this little quarter of South Carolina and North Carolina might today see some locally heavy rainfall right along the coast. But you can see the extent of the next wave that is coming through here, potentially in parts of Oklahoma and Arkansas, southern Missouri, getting into western Tennessee, and Kentucky, maybe pulling out better than an inch of rainfall overall. So let's take a look at what some of these details look like. We're going to go straight to our high resolution models here and get this playing out through early today on Tuesday. So what we notice here, if we just step this back and watch it again, is that throughout the early morning hours here, we are seeing precipitation, heavier precipitation right here along the coast. There's a feature kind of drawing in on the tail end of a front, some heavier rainfall. Very close to the coast here is what we're talking about. Outside of that, some widely scattered showers through parts of Georgia, getting into Alabama here, and then still back here on our next front, the next big push of colder air getting into Arkansas and Louisiana. But if we watch this again, pause it right about here. Now, if we take this forward, you're going to start to see the main shortwave emerge here in parts of Texas. And you can see it already starting to draw by this evening, Tuesday evening, moisture through eastern Texas. And as the moisture kind of sits along the main frontal boundary in this area, And again, what's causing this front is a big area of higher pressure here, pushing the air in this direction. Higher atmospheric pressure sitting here over the mid-Atlantic, and its flow is coming in like this, and sandwiched in between is this frontal boundary. In the upper levels, a little shortwave is sneaking through, so we have a lot of support for getting air to rise in the atmosphere. So you're going to see the precipitation starting, this is midday tomorrow on Wednesday. You're going to see it through the evening hours on Wednesday, getting into early morning on Thursday, continually going over the same region. So it's kind of like a stationary boundary, if you will, because the airflow is coming in like this in one direction. It's coming in like this in the other direction. So neither is moving the boundary, but one is feeding it with moisture and the other one is feeding it with cold air. So we continue to see right in through this area the heaviest rainfall. We need to be on the lookout here in parts of New Mexico, Colorado, southwestern Kansas, and the panhandles. As this comes through, enough cold air sneaks in on the backside, we could get a brief episode here of some freezing rain and sleet, and then a switch over to some snow on the backside. But you can see as I take you all the way out to midday Thursday, we got a multi-day rainfall event that's coming through the mid-south here. So from this point on, I got to switch over to the European model. Let's take a look at how things progress from there. So starting you off Thursday around 6 a.m., as we press forward in this forecast, you can see the main shield of precipitation very well aligned with that frontal boundary. So high pressure behind, high pressure out ahead, and between the two is where we're sandwiching things together. So this is now Thursday afternoon, getting into Thursday evening. This is now by the time we get to about midnight on Thursday into Friday morning, and this is Friday morning. And by that point, higher atmospheric pressure has really dominated and pushed in. This will be a big push of cold air, very windy conditions along that boundary and behind that boundary. And I am going to watch out right in through this area for the potential for some of these storms to put down some bigger rainfall amounts in Georgia and South Carolina as we get into the early morning on Friday. Now, like I said, the current timing of this, because it's coming through early in the morning on Friday, 12Z, so that's 7 a.m. here, is because it's early in the morning and that's more statically stable time of day, which means we don't tap into what we would need to make these more substantial storms. So it's all about timing. Now, after that comes through, higher atmospheric pressure dominates the southern region through our weekend. So this is now Saturday morning, getting into Sunday morning. You can clearly see the presence and dominance of that high. But we continue to have this deeper upper level low, and the next big system is now sweeping through Sunday, getting into Monday. So you can see here comes our next big area of higher atmospheric pressure and the front out ahead of it. So maybe by the time we get into early Monday morning hours, this one might have enough cold air on the backside that we're talking about snow through parts of northern Arkansas, Tennessee, and Kentucky. So we need to watch out in this area, pay close attention for the rest of this week to see how this evolves, because as this next push of cold air comes in to start off our next week, it's going to bring quite a bit of cold air pretty far into the southern region here. So you can see the extent of these ridges. Look at this monster ridges that keep coming through here. So when we think about this in total, one thing I do want to be on the lookout for next week is you can see that moving through parts of Texas right here. So this is Monday, getting into Monday afternoon and evening. That may be a region of enhanced precipitation early next week. And the reason why I bring that up is because I now want to switch over to what the day 4 through 10 forecast looks like. So the GFS on the left, European ensemble on the right. While the ensemble models are painting the dominance of that higher pressure, bringing a lot of dry conditions to our southern region, remember with that front that is coming through next Monday, we may get a little bit of extra precipitation right in through this area that the ensembles aren't necessarily picking up on too well right now. But if I back off those drawings, what you do notice is that the day 4 through 10 time period, so getting, basically starting the beginning of this weekend, getting through that next 7 days after that, we do see the dominance of those higher pressure systems that are sneaking down like this, really painting a drier picture. So instead of having systems roll out like that, drawing in on moisture, the trajectory of our next several systems is coming out of the northwest, and that is a drier pattern for us, okay? Now, if we switch our discussion here as we try to finish up this video over to temperatures, I made a map, and the data that I have, the official data I have, goes through the 3rd of November. So looking over that time period, where that you see gray here, except for in Mexico, so please ignore that. you are seeing where we have hit freezing temperatures so far. So the extent of our freeze here is pretty extensive. But yesterday morning we had those frost and freeze advisories out for this quarter. So I just want to show you some of the preliminary data, and you can see here when you look for the shift over into these colors, the blue colors, that is where we also are going to be adding to our freeze map. So some of the first freeze here for parts of the Piedmont in in North Carolina, getting all the way down to the Atlantic coastal plain there as well. So we're extending that cold air, and it's nowhere close to being done, because check this out. Animation of our pattern here over the next 15 days, you keep seeing lobe after lobe of deep, upper level troughs sweep through, especially through the next 10 days. Now we're going to have to be very careful. This is Monday the 11th, and then getting into Tuesday the 12th with what could potentially happen with this one right here. Now we're pretty far out in the forecast, but models keep suggesting the development of a big coastal low, and it's just not nailed down yet. As to where the timing and position and strength, we don't have the details on it yet, but we have to watch out for those features when we get deep troughs penetrating here into the eastern half of the United States. But you say, why is it so dry? Well, this is the convergent side of a trough. Convergence aloft tends to build a lot of higher atmospheric pressure, and we end up getting the much drier conditions with that northwest flow this time of year. Now look at what it's doing to our temperatures. Over the next 5 days, I got the European on the right, GFS, both ensemble models here, and you can see they have great agreement with the warmth building out west into the ridge and just persistent high pressure systems bringing down cold air from Canada. Now this is through the next 5 days, so this takes us basically out to Saturday evening. This is now what the following 5 days looks like. So take a look at that. This very strong agreement that we're bringing in some of the coldest air of the season here through the Central Plains, getting down into our southern region. And it's only going to be in the southwest, getting up into the western United States, that we experience some warmer than average conditions with this highly amplified pattern. And getting all the way out here to the 11 to 15 day time period. So now we're stretching this clear out until the 20th. We are unable to kind of break this pattern down. So in tomorrow's long range, we're going to see if we continue this into the end of the third week and in the fourth week of the month of November, and maybe look at some new longer term data that suggests maybe a glimpse into what is going on in December. So tune in again tomorrow, and we'll definitely be talking about that. Prepare for these cold blasts that are coming through, and also the heavy rain through parts of the Mid-South in the coming days. And so right here, we'll go ahead and wrap it up, and I just want to thank you for watching. Hope you look forward to the rest of our content this week, and have a great week. Thanks.